Moments with Mark. We're in Mark chapter 8, the story of the feeding of the 4,000. There seems to be two feedings that we find in the Gospels. One is the feeding of the 5,000 plus, and here we have the feeding of the 4,000 plus. And so we see this in the Gospel of Mark chapter 8 as we take some moments with Mark chapter 8, starting with verse 1. About this time, another large crowd had gathered, and the people ran out of food again. Probably this crowd was Jews and Gentiles mixed. And Jesus called his disciples and told them, "I feel sorry for these people." Many versions say Jesus had compassion on these people. I like that phrase, that he had compassion on these people. And that's basically what it means. He felt sorry for them. They had spent time hearing his spiritual lessons, and now they were famished for food, needing some, not only spiritual food, but needing physical food. Jesus said, "I feel sorry for these people." It shows his concern for people as well, not only for the soul, but for the body. "They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat." And of course, our physical needs are important to us. Air, food, water, those are all things that we need to keep our body functioning. And so it says in verse 3, "If I send them home hungry, they will faint or they might collapse along the way. For some of them have come a long distance." So here we see a very practical Jesus. He's not only caring about their soul, but he's caring about their physical needs. And just like them, Jesus is concerned not only for our souls, but our physical needs as well. We continue with the story in verse 4. His disciples replied, "How are we supposed to find enough food to feed them out here in this wilderness?" The disciples realize right away that they are inadequate to take care of the needs of the people. A large crowd of 4,000 plus, how are they going to feed them all? And isn't it true that we often find ourselves inadequate for the task before us? We need Jesus' help, right? We need his assistance in the matters of life that seem to be overwhelming us. Jesus asked, "How much bread do you have?" Right away, Jesus involves his followers, his disciples, asking them, "Well, what do you have?" I like that phrase because Jesus isn't asking what you don't have. He's asking what you do have. He's not demanding you to come up with something you don't have. He's asking you to give what you do have. So Jesus involves his disciples in this miracle of the feeding of the 4,000. He still involves his disciples today in meeting the needs of people around the world. How does Christ feed the crowds of hungry people today? By using you and me in helping to supply that need. "How much bread do you have?" "7 loaves," they replied. So Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, he thanked God for them, and broke them into pieces. He gave them to the disciples, and they distributed the bread to the crowd. A few small fish were found too. So Jesus also blessed these and told the disciples to distribute them. So here we see Jesus expressing gratitude for the small loaves and fishes that they do have. We should often thank God for the blessings, not only spiritual blessings of salvation and strength for the day, but also for our very practical needs being met. A roof over our head, clothes on our back, food on our table. Be thankful. Jesus gives a wonderful pattern for us to follow. And it also reminds us in this passage that God provides. Where God guides, I believe He provides. And He has provided for all of us in our various tasks of work, ministry, family life. God provides, and we need to just daily trust Him in the activities of life, that He will provide what is needed at the right time. They ate as much as they wanted. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. Now, it's interesting here that the disciples were used by Jesus to distribute the food, and He uses us to meet the needs of humanity today. But then it says, they ate as much as they wanted. The word there actually is they ate to their full. They ate till they were satisfied. There was enough in this miraculous multiplication of bread and fish that people had enough to eat to the full. And then they gathered up as much as 7 large baskets of leftover food. There was more than enough. And often through Scripture we see the abundance of God. Matter of fact, Jesus in John chapter 10 says that He came to give us life, and that life more abundant. And it says there were about 4,000 people in the crowd that day, and Jesus sent them home after they had eaten. Immediately after this, He got into a boat with His disciples and crossed over to the region of Dalmatia. And that was the west side of the Sea of Galilee. So here is a wonderful story of Jesus, one of His many miracles, a multiplication of the bread and the fishes to meet the very practical needs of humanity that had gathered around Him. Jesus still has compassion on humanity today, and He still uses us to meet the needs of others.